In life, it's easy to point fingers at external factors when things go wrong. We might blame bad luck, difficult circumstances, unfair systems, or even the actions of others for our failures and setbacks. But what if the real enemy isn't out there? What if the biggest obstacle to our success is something far closer, something within us? This internal adversary is called ego. Now, when we talk about ego in this summary, we're not referring to the complex psychological concept introduced by Freud. We're talking about ego in its most common and destructive form: unhealthy self-regard, selfish ambition, and unwarranted arrogance. It's that little voice that tells you you're better than others, that you deserve more, that you're entitled to success without putting in the work. Ego is the enemy summary. In his book Summary, Ego is the Enemy, Ryan Holiday explores how this internal enemy can sabotage our lives at every stage. He identifies 3 distinct stages in our journey: aspiration, success, and failure. We're always in one of these stages, constantly cycling through them as we move forward in life. For example, you might be riding high on a wave of success in your career right now, but what comes next? Will you continue to ascend, or will you encounter obstacles that lead to failure? Perhaps you're struggling in a relationship. What's the next step? Do you keep faltering, or do you find the strength to aspire towards something better? Whether that's repairing the current relationship or starting anew. The point is, we're always moving between these stages: aspiration, success, failure. No matter where you are in this cycle, ego is your constant adversary. It's the voice that undermines your efforts, the force that pushes you to make decisions based on pride rather than wisdom. Some might argue that a bit of ego is necessary to spark ambition or maintain a competitive edge, but this is a dangerous misconception. Ego is not the same as ambition, nor is it synonymous with confidence. In fact, ego can derail your dreams, destroy your relationships, and even dismantle the life you've worked so hard to build. It's the force that prevents you from picking yourself up after a fall and trying again. Ego manifests differently depending on which stage of life you're in. It might show up as overconfidence when you're aspiring, as arrogance when you're succeeding, or as self-pity when you're facing failure. But no matter its form, ego is always working against you. The goal of this summary is to help you identify the ways ego manifests in your life, so you can resist its pull and avoid developing destructive habits. By the end, you should have the tools to replace ego with something far more powerful: humility. In the words of Ryan Holiday, you'll learn how to be humble in your aspirations, gracious in your success, and resilient in your failure. In this summary, you'll also discover the crucial differences between ego and ambition, why ego and confidence are not the same, the importance of focusing on what truly matters to you. Chapter 1. Aspire. Ego as a barrier to growth. Every great journey begins with aspiration. Whether you're learning a new skill, launching a new career, or setting out on a personal project, the early stages are filled with hope, excitement, and the desire to succeed. However, this is also when ego can first rear its ugly head, convincing you that you're already talented enough, smart enough, and capable enough to achieve your goals without putting in the necessary work. Ego tells you that you don't need to practice, that you don't need to invest time and effort, because you can simply rely on your natural brilliance. But as the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, it is impossible to learn that which one thinks one already knows. While talent can certainly play a role in success, it's humility and diligence, the willingness to practice, to invest time and effort, that truly pave the way from aspiration to achievement. If you overestimate your abilities, you'll never improve. If you believe you already have all the answers, you'll never learn anything new. At this stage, the most critical skill you can develop is the ability to accurately assess your own capabilities. To illustrate this point, let's look at the career of William Tecumseh Sherman, a general in the Union Army during the American Civil War. Sherman eventually became one of the most celebrated military leaders in U.S. history, but his rise to prominence was neither swift nor expected. As a young officer, Sherman moved from post to post, accumulating knowledge and experience at each location. When the Civil War began, he fought with distinction, Later, when the Union Army faced a leadership shortage, President Lincoln offered Sherman a promotion. However, Sherman, with his sharp self-assessment, accepted the promotion but declined a superior command, knowing that he was most effective where he was. Sherman's clear-eyed understanding of his skills prevented him from overreaching. While many others would have eagerly accepted the opportunity for increased power, Sherman knew his limitations and focused on where he could contribute the most. This is the difference between confidence and ego. Confidence is built on hard work, accurate self-assessment, and real achievements. Ego, on the other hand, is baseless and self-serving. As Holliday puts it, ego is stolen, confidence is earned. Sherman's career was marked by his ability to leave his ego at the door, which earned him both confidence and success. Now take a moment to assess yourself. Be unflinchingly honest and objective. This may be tough and even a bit painful, but the goal isn't to hurt yourself, it's to humble yourself. If you have a realistic understanding of your true abilities, you'll be better prepared to succeed because you'll know where you need to put in the hard work. Chapter 2. Aspire. Strategies to counteract ego. When you're in the aspiration stage, especially at the beginning of a new journey, it's all about hard, unglamorous work. The road to greatness is paved with small, consistent actions. It's fine to have grand visions, like writing a book or mastering a difficult skill. But remember that a book is written one word at a time, one sentence at a time. A skill is mastered hour by hour, mistake by mistake. It takes dedication. Putting in the work is the most effective way to counteract your ego and build genuine confidence. It's also the surest path to the next stage, success. Holliday offers 8 pointers for counteracting ego in the Aspire stage, with more than half focusing on action, on doing something rather than just trying to be someone, and on being willing to put in the work. Let's explore 3 of these pointers. Talk less, do more. First, talk less. Excessive talk is dangerous because it consumes the same resources that work requires, time and mental energy. The more challenging or daunting a task, the more tempting it is to talk about it. But after all that talk, you'll be no closer to completion, and your resources, time, energy, will be depleted. Talking about a task can also create the illusion of progress. If you spend hours considering, explaining, and discussing something, you might start to believe you've actually accomplished it. But beware of this trap. As the ancient Greek poet Hesiod wisely said, "A man's best treasure is a thrifty tongue." Work for the sake of work. Second, work, 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 and enjoy the process. Success does not end with achievement. You're not a writer because you've written a novel. You're a writer because you write day in and day out. You're not a runner because you've completed a marathon. You're a runner because you run multiple times per week, every week. Ego sees accomplishment as an endpoint. A single success means you are a success. But success is a process, a continuous cycle of putting in the work. Learn to enjoy that process. Enjoy the work itself, not the accolades or admiration it might bring. The work is the reward. To sum up, talk less, work more. Excessive talk drains your energy and consumes your time, leading you nowhere. Success isn't about what you've done, it's about what you're doing. Keep working and find joy in the work itself, not in the rewards it might bring. The work is the reward. Be a perpetual student. The third pointer is to become a perpetual student. This is a great transition to the success stage, which we'll discuss next. So let's move on to the next chapter and explore what it means to be a lifelong student. Chapter 3, Success. Embrace lifelong learning. As you begin to achieve success, your ego can become even more dangerous. It may tell you that you're better, smarter, and already an expert. When you're aspiring, you can counteract your ego by reminding yourself that there's always something new to learn. Consider the story of Kirk Hammett. In 1983, at the age of 20, his life changed forever when Metallica invited him to become their lead guitarist. Hammett was already an incredibly skilled musician, but even though he'd just joined one of the most famous rock bands of all time, he knew he wasn't done learning. He understood that there was still work to do, so he became a student of Joe Satriani, a virtuosic guitar teacher. Satriani was tough on his students, And many, driven by ego, quit because they were unwilling to practice as instructed. But not Hammett. He studied, practiced, and put in the work. 20 years later, in 2003, Rolling Stone ranked him as the 11th greatest guitarist of all time. If you've gained recognition for your work or hold an impressive title, it becomes even more challenging to stay humble and resist the self-satisfied words of your ego. Hammett was already a professional when he joined Metallica, but he didn't let his accomplishments stand in the way of his development. He didn't let pride prevent him from improving. Imagine what might have happened if some of the world's greatest inventors had let their early achievements go to their heads. What if Steve Jobs had rested on his laurels after creating the Apple II computer? We'd probably live in a world without iPhones or iPads. Resting on your laurels is a direct result of pride. While pride and ego aren't the same, they certainly go hand in hand. Pride helps justify our ego, making us feel that a single success is a sign of how special we are. We become too busy patting ourselves on the back to see that there's still room for improvement or that we could achieve even greater things. A powerful way to combat this tendency is to remain a student. During the aspire stage, you may have studied under someone, but when you reach the success stage, even if there's no teacher more knowledgeable or skilled than you, maintain that student mentality. Be a student of your craft. There's always more to learn, and reminding yourself of this will keep both your pride and your ego in check. This will allow you to continue excelling while others, driven by ego, fall by the wayside. Chapter 4. Success. Focus on what truly matters. As you achieve success, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters to you. You might start chasing goals or pursuing positions that, beyond the status they convey, hold little personal significance. This is a recipe for disaster, as it leads to a life driven by ego rather than genuine fulfillment. Take the story of Ulysses S. Grant, the former U.S. president who fought alongside William Tecumseh Sherman in the American Civil War. Both men achieved great success on the battlefield, and they were among the most celebrated figures in the United States. However, their paths diverged significantly after the war. Grant, despite his military success, decided to run for president and won. However, while he may have been popular in the Army, he lacked the political experience needed to navigate the complexities of Washington. His ego led him to believe he was the right man for the job, but his administration was plagued by corruption and ineffectiveness. After 2 tumultuous terms, Grant left office, disillusioned and unpopular. Later, he was bankrupted in a Ponzi scheme, further demonstrating how his ego-driven desires led to ruin. In contrast, Sherman knew his strengths and limitations. He understood that his success in the military couldn't necessarily be transferred to the political arena, and he was content to continue working in his field of expertise. Sherman's ability to focus on what truly mattered to him allowed him to maintain his integrity and avoid the pitfalls of ego. Grant's story is a cautionary tale that applies to all of us. We often get caught up in the race for more power, more money, more experiences, without considering whether these pursuits align with our true desires. This is ego at work, driving us to chase external validation rather than personal fulfillment. To avoid this trap, it's essential to identify what's genuinely important to you. Maybe it's spending more time with your family, or perhaps it's achieving financial independence. Whatever it is, you need to know it and pursue it with intention. Achieving your goals will require trade-offs, and ego resists making those trade-offs. The key to success is knowing what you want and staying focused on it. Once you have clarity on your goals, you can ignore the distractions that might lead you astray. Chapter 5. Success, the power of delegation and trusting your team. As you rise in your career and take on more responsibility, your ego may start to whisper that you're the only one who can do things right. You might feel reluctant to delegate tasks because you believe others won't do them as well as you. However, this mindset is a sign that your ego is getting in the way, and it's crucial to learn how to trust your team. When you take on a managerial role, you may no longer receive direct recognition for your work. Instead, you're overseeing the efforts of others, and they get the credit. This can be challenging, especially if you're used to being in the spotlight. The temptation to do the work yourself rather than delegate it is strong, but it's essential to resist this urge. The voice in your head that insists only you know how to do things correctly is your ego talking. Fight it by delegating tasks and trusting your team to handle them. You might discover that your colleagues are more than capable, and by freeing yourself from micromanagement, you'll have time to focus on new opportunities. Refusing to delegate can have significant costs, both for you and your organization. Consider the story of John DeLorean, the car manufacturer who left General Motors to start his own company. DeLorean believed he had a better understanding of the car manufacturing business than his bosses at GM. But this belief wasn't based on much. He lacked the expertise, experience, and managerial skills needed to run a company successfully. In his new venture, DeLorean tossed out the stable, top-down responsibility structures that had made GM thrive. Instead, he insisted on having a say in every single decision, creating a dictatorial style of management that was unsustainable. The result was predictable. DeLorean's company failed, ending in bankruptcy. DeLorean's downfall serves as a powerful reminder of the dangers of letting ego dictate your actions. By learning to trust others and delegate tasks, you can avoid similar pitfalls and lead your team to greater success. Chapter 6. Failure. Embrace failure as a learning opportunity. Failure is an inevitable part of life, and how you respond to it determines whether you'll ultimately succeed or continue to struggle. Ego often prevents us from learning from our failures, as it convinces us that we're entitled to success and that any setbacks are the result of external factors rather than our own shortcomings. When one of your ideas gets rejected, or you don't get the job you applied for, it's natural to feel frustrated. But instead of wallowing in disappointment, take the opportunity to reflect on what went wrong and what you can do better next time. Acknowledging the work you've done and recognizing that you can't always control the outcome is the first step toward growth. Embrace unexpected results as opportunities to learn and improve your performance. It's also important to remember that lucky breaks are not the same as success earned through hard work. Be honest with yourself about your achievements and failures, and use them as fuel for improvement. A great example of this mindset comes from the New England Patriots football team. They selected Tom Brady in the 6th round of an entry draft, and he went on to become one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, leading the Patriots to multiple Super Bowl titles. Instead of congratulating themselves on their lucky break in finding such a talented player, the Patriots focused on improving their scouting program to identify similar talent in the future. They didn't celebrate their luck. They returned to the drawing board to ensure continued success. The next time something doesn't go as planned, or even when something goes well due to sheer luck, take the time to understand why. By continually improving your efforts, you'll increase your chances of success in the future. Final advice: the ever-present battle against ego. The central message of this summary is clear. Avoid ego at all costs. Ego is the enemy, not just in the present, but always. Whether you're aspiring to achieve something, enjoying success, or grappling with failure, ego will always try to undermine your efforts. Aspiration is the path to success, but it's also filled with potential obstacles. Success will bring new challenges, but it should also inspire new ambitions. And when you encounter obstacles, they become opportunities for new aspirations and successes. The cycle is endless, and the only thing that can truly stop you is ego. Throughout history, the most successful individuals have faced obstacles and made mistakes. What set them apart was their ability to learn from these experiences, to turn obstacles to their advantage, and to remain humble in the face of adversity. They understood that no one is infallible, and that the world doesn't always bend to one's will. If they hadn't learned these lessons, if they hadn't had the self-awareness and humility to accept their limitations, they would never have gone on to achieve great things. The same applies to you. The only thing stopping you from following a similar path, from thriving in any stage of life, whether aspire, success, or failure, is ego. You can aspire without ego. You can succeed without ego, and you can face failure with resilience if you leave ego behind. Ego is the enemy, and overcoming it is the key to lasting success. Are you interested in the book? We got you a link in the description down below.